Welcome back to another episode of This Just In. And this just in, VF Corporation buys Supreme for $2.1 billion. If you don't know what that means, one of the biggest streetwear giants in the world just got purchased by another company. And this episode is going to be talking about all about that what that means for Supreme, what that means for Supreme customers, and all of that. So let's just get right into it. So last week, the VF Corporation bought Supreme for $2.1 billion, and which off from the Carlyle Group, who bought them in 2017, or who bought 50% of the company at $500 million, valuing the company Supreme at $1 billion at the time in 2017. Now, VF Corporation is the company who owns brands like Vans, they own Dickies, they own North Face. So these are companies that have worked with Supreme in the past and have worked with Supreme for a long time. So it's not like completely out of nowhere. And for many people, it's better than the Carlyle Group because at least the VF Corporation has some idea of what to do with the Supreme business and they can actually help them in somehow, some way. Unlike the VF Corp, which is basically just the biggest reseller. I'm sure that joke has been made too many times, so I will not make it again. But yeah, they really just resold the reselling kings of sorts. So many of you know me from my Supreme, so I figured it's important for me, not important, but it might be helpful to give my insight or whatever I can make up about the brand I hold near and dear and what the future of that brand may be. So let's get into it. Recently, I just finished reading Bobby Hundred's book by the biography called "This Is Not a T-Shirt," and it's a book like recontextualizing and telling the whole story of the Hundred, which is another streetwear giant. Well, it's not as big as Supreme or some other things, but they were OGs. They've been in the game for a long time. They're still in the game, and Bobby had some wonderful, wonderful insights. For anyone who's interested, it's a great book if you're running a business, especially like in the streetwear company like I am, in the streetwear industry like I am. So like a lot of the words in this book were super vital, all the lessons. And I think if you just didn't really know about streetwear and you want to understand what it is, super good at that too. And I didn't finish reading the book until the bio, or like until I was preparing for this episode a few days ago. And at first I didn't really have much an opinion of the buyout. Obviously, it's kind of too early to say what really will happen. There are a few things you can, okay, yeah, they listed out some of the things that they want to do in their like slide deck or whatever. But really, we're not really going to know as Supreme like customers and people who are like putting their ear to the brand and just trying to like see how it goes. You're not going to really figure out stuff, or much stuff you're not going to really figure out what changes until stuff changes. So I didn't really want to give too much of an opinion, or I didn't want to really have much to say about it other than, it's time we'll just wait and see, and then we'll see how it goes. But after finishing Bobby Hundred's book, it really definitely helped. I really kind of understood what this could mean going forward for the brand and for the culture going forward. So when that news broke, I think on Monday or Tuesday morning, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Supreme's dead! Supreme's dead! R.I.P. Supreme!" Even though some people were like, "Oh my God, no, Supreme's been dead. It's died in 2017 when they got bought out by Carlyle and when they did a collab with LV." And funny enough, that is when I first started with Supreme. Now, I did buy, like, I was following the brand a year before, but I didn't get into like owning pieces and buying off the website until that season, 2017 fall winter. So I think I first started with the brand in 2016, and I remember I would always load up the website on drop days on Thursday in one of my computer classes just to see all the madness that would go on, see how all the items would sell out and how quickly they would do it. And I would just watch and watch from like fall winter 2016 is when I started, and then I kept going, just watching the drops wherever I was. Just seeing how things would load up, how things would sell out, practicing, like trying to add stuff to my cart. I'm like, oh, I added the box over to my cart or whatever. And then eventually I got a job in the summer of 2017 at the CNE, which was my first job as a housekeeping attendant. And it was super great. And I partially wanted to get a job because I'm like, okay, finally I'll be able to get Supreme. So motivation for picking up garbage and cleaning up poo, buying Supreme. So then the drop happened, I think, right around where the first drop of fall winter 2017 happened around the first time my first paycheck landed. So I think it was the same week, thankfully, that my paycheck would come in the same week as drop date. So fortunately enough for me, my paychecks were on the Thursdays instead of the Fridays. It was really weird, but it worked out for me. So that Thursday, I think it was like one of the last weeks in August. Thursday, I wake up 9 o'clock, 2 hours before the drop, head to the bank, make sure, go to my account, see the money's landed, good. Then I go to the teller, make sure my online purchases are working, and then I can actually buy stuff online. There was no cash limit or whatever. And then after that, I head home, and then I was just practicing on the website, just like not even, you couldn't practice on the website, but I was practicing captchas, watching as many YouTube videos as I can, like how to cop, guaranteed cops, etc., watching live cops and stuff like that. Stuff that I still kind of do now, just to like, I don't know why I still do it, but I still do it to this day, just watching how to cops and things like that right before a big drop or whatever. So then time comes, 11 o'clock hits, and I load up on the site and I go for it. I go for probably one of my bigger pieces I've ever copped on Supreme. And very interesting that this was my first piece. I copped the Nas photo tee in a pale blue, size medium. Now, little did I know that wasn't like size medium, pale blue. That was not the big deal. It's not like a super hyped color. It's not a great size. But for my first go, size small or size medium photo tee, yeah, it was pretty exciting. And like considering like afterwards, I checked Supreme Community and it was like, oh, 30-second sell for that piece. I'm like, oh, wow. Like that was crazy. For my first drop to get that, I didn't like the day before and the weeks leading up to the actual drop, I didn't expect to get that piece. I was just like, oh, it's my first cop with Supreme. I probably should go easy, pick like another tee that's like, that's kind of low key, that won't sell out too quickly, probably in a color that's not going to sell out the fastest. And then I think the night or two before, I was just like, all right, you know what? Let's go for it. I think I saw someone with a photo tee on. I'm like, okay, that looks so sick. I gotta grab it. In addition to not being able with confidence of actually copying it, I didn't want to rep someone in merch that I didn't really listen to or I didn't love head over heels. And I was familiar with Nas's music, but I wasn't like, as I said, head over heels. So I didn't want to go all in and rep a tee with it that had him like covered, like his whole face was on it. So I was very hesitant about that too. But then I was just like, fuck it, let's just try it. Let's just see where it can go. And I mean, I got it. And I was still kind of iffy about it because at the time, 2017, if you don't remember, vintage band tees were super big and they're like still kind of here now. But like that was the biggest trend. Everyone was wearing vintage band tees. And and my big issue with the vintage band tee wave was that most of the people wearing these tees didn't know the people that were on it. And now I've kind of changed my opinion on that. But that's another episode to talk about trends and stuff. But I'll just say that my opinion on wearing merch that you may not really know has changed. And it may or not have been because of this Nas tee. So, yeah, I made the call going for the Nas tee. And I got it. And it was so crazy because I remember like, and it still happens to me to this day when I'm getting something that I really want. So like for any of the box logo drops of recent, like something like it's crazy because I always am filled with shock, even though this is just a t-shirt, right? And I'm shaking crazy. Like my hands are shaking and I have never shaken like that in so long. And then just for a t-shirt, it's crazy that makes me start like compulsively shaking. So yeah, I eventually check out and that boosted my confidence so much. And when I'm like, yo, Supreme's easy, no problem. I'm so good at this. First cop, yo, I'm the best copper you all know. You ever know, whatever. Funnily enough, the next drop I got, I did not score. I was trying to get the chopsticks and a bag. And that was my first L. So like immediately, first 2 weeks, I was at a 50% checkout success rate on Supreme. So that was kind of funny that I got one of the most hyped items probably of that season. Then following the next week, not being able to cop like a mid-tier hype item that most people don't even remember Supreme did. So there's that. So at the time, like Supreme was still growing, and I don't even think it hit its cap. But that was when Supreme got bought out by Carlyle Group, and at that time, nothing really changed much. Maybe just like as everyone says, and it's over time. Everyone says that the stock has been increasing slowly and slowly, but I think it matches with the people that are going into it. As time goes on, more and more people are getting into it. So I feel like they are increasing the stock as much as people are getting into it. So it kind of balances out how much stock they have per how much demand they have. So like at the end of the day, the same amount of people are being salty about not being able to cop at the end of every hype drop. So it doesn't really change that as much. If anything, it might have been easier for me to get the hype pieces that I did because of that stock increase, and maybe other people who weren't into it as much, or who just recently got into it, or people who've been waiting for the brand, who have been fans of the brand and who haven't been able to cop like stuff they really wanted until like recently, until they increased the stock as much as they did. So there's that. And like, for example, like those OGs that, or those people that have been in the game and haven't hit on a box logo, like maybe haven't hit it for years, and maybe still haven't hit it today, but they're still going to go for it. And for me, it took 3 years, and I know lots of people that I know haven't touched it either, or some people who have gotten into it sooner than I did got theirs before I did. And it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's just a t-shirt with a logo on it. And it's funny that I'm making this whole episode about a brand that has become so popular because of a t-shirt with a logo on it. So that's kind of ironic. Yeah, this episode I am actually prepared. I did write some things to talk about before, so hopefully it doesn't sound as lost as it usually does. Everything takes time, and I think even Supreme, like cropping stuff, definitely takes time. You could definitely go on the Supreme Reddit and just see on a box logo drop day, or like a first week drop day, they're like, oh my gosh, 10 years later, finally got it. Or, oh my gosh, been in the game, first drop, I wanted to try and I got it. And it's just really luck at that, if that shows it anything. Like, doesn't matter how long you've been in the game, everyone still has equally the same chances of not getting it or getting it. A lot of the people who follow Supreme when this came out were like saying, oh, Supreme hasn't been good since the OG times, or like it was better in the early 2000s, or blah, 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 whatever. And I don't think that's completely true. Like, I've spent too much time on Supreme community just digging through the drop list archives and just seeing all the old pieces from way back when I probably didn't even really know how to dress. I think on Supreme community, the furthest or the oldest drop list you can check, I think, is 2011. So I would go through, and I did it recently just to see how other seasons stack up so far. And I noticed that like not until like maybe 2015, 2016, a lot of the items are kind of boring. It's just a variation of a hoodie with a variation of a graphic on it. The cut and sew is not that interesting. There are a few hidden gems throughout, but like compared to now, I think there's more banger sleeper pieces today than there has ever been. And I mean, it doesn't. You can even check like on a weekly drop list. There's going to be maybe a handful of items. Not even a handful of items, maybe 1 or 2 items every week that's like probably hitting at the bottom of the list that are super underrated. No one likes, everyone's disliking. But like, that's probably one of the best pieces of that drop list. I mean, relatively speaking, it depends on the drop list. But generally, I think people just hate on some of these pieces just because they're just not the traditional, oh, it's not a box logo, or it's not a Supreme thing that just says Supreme on it or whatever. It has to be like, it's like maybe it has the smallest amount of Supreme, and it might be a pant in a weird material, or it might be a shirt with a weird print on it. But I think those are the cool pieces. Those are like the actual artistic and the most fashiony pieces that Supreme would make. So like, I think one of the more recent items that would fit this bill is like the velvet work suit that dropped recently. So it was a jacket and a pant, and the jacket is so beautiful, and the pants were so beautiful, and that beautiful blue, and then that super beautiful brown, and they also had it in a checker that was super sick. And I think they posted a fit pic on it on Supreme Story, and it looks so sick. But like, if you look at the drop list. It's at the bottom. It probably has no resale value. It might still be on the website as I record this episode. But I think that's probably one of the best items that they dropped last week, not including the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Ariel tapestry jacket. So again, that says something about like how even some of the hype pieces that are super amazing, or some of the super beautiful artistic pieces, will get thrown up with the hype as well. The bottom of the drop list might have some of the best gems that no one is looking for. And I think those are the pieces that gave Supreme that menswear award, I think in 2018. And probably their collabs helped as well. And that was also when they had some of their bigger collabs. I think they did an undercover collab that year. Like that was probably follow back of the Louis Vuitton collab as well. So, I mean, that's part of it. But then there's also those sleeper pieces that you definitely would not look twice at unless you're really digging and you're really looking at every piece and seeing, oh, Supreme is more than just the box logo and just the t-shirt or the stupid accessories, which I'll definitely get into maybe another time. Part of me thinks that those are the pieces that are also part of Supreme's like main ethos of we'll do what we want. And I think those pieces, those crazy pieces that no one likes, or not no one likes, the ones that are not reselling, the ones that are at the bottom of the drop list, those are the pieces that Supreme gets to do what they want to do the best. Because Supreme started out as a local skate shop and a clubhouse, basically just a clubhouse for a bunch of New York skate rats. And those were the people that they were making their products for at the time when they were still just a tiny shop that no one really knew in like a dead street at the time in New York in 1994. And I think even till this day, those are part of the people that Supreme is focusing on when they're making their products. Those 90s skate rats who would almost live in their shops, who would just hang around, maybe not even buy anything, but they were just doing whatever, wearing whatever they wanted, whatever they thought was cool. As I said, they may not have an influence as much as they do now, but their imprint is still visible throughout whatever Supreme's making today. And to go with that, I think my oldest Supreme item, not the piece I got first, but like the oldest item I got in like secondhand was a Supreme tee from 2007, and it is my most beautiful tee. Not graphic. The graphic is okay, but the tee itself with a fat collar and surprisingly still kind of soft, kind of heavy. But for a tee from 2007 that's been probably worn a lot before I got it, it's just crazy because that quality is still holding up. And I think it's holding up better than some of the other tees I've gotten within the recent years. So there's that too. And I think that quality aspect of Supreme, although it may have dropped off compared to from 2007 to how it is today, I definitely don't think some of the Supreme tees I've gotten of recently are holding up as well as that Supreme tee from 2007 has. But that's another story. Kind of. Because I think part of the reason why Supreme has had that power is not only because of the hype, but partly because of the quality. And I think that quality is kind of what pushed it through to the point where it got so much hype. Because as I said before, Supreme made their products for those 90 skate rats, and those 90 skate rats would beat the hell out of their clothes, right? They would just absolutely destroy them. And they had to stand up to that beating, right? Regardless of the quality, how it compares to that OG Supreme tee from 2007. Supreme does make my favorite t-shirts, period. Like, I will, if I find just a bunch of blank Supreme blanks, I will buy them gladly and just rock them as my basic tee. And to this day, as my brand, as I do my drops and stuff with my own brand, I still try to find that blank that emulates that Supreme feel, that weight, that cut, that whole Supreme t-shirt. That's so beautiful. That's definitely one of my favorite things from Supreme is their t-shirts. Just on the quality. I mean, the graphics are cool too, depending on what graphic it is, but like that tee is just something else, and I haven't been able to replicate it. Going back to that VF buyout, I don't think you're going to be seeing Supreme at a mall store anytime soon, because that's part of Supreme's luster, and that's part of why Supreme makes the money it did, or that gave it the valuation it did, because of how limited it is and because of how secretive and limited their distribution is. Like having it only be from the online store and the very few in-store retail locations, that definitely helps from it. Despite all the people saying, oh, you're going to see it in Zoomies and you're going to see it in PAXA, and that's probably not going to happen, because the VF Corporation definitely knows that once it hits the malls, it is dead. to most people, and that they're not going to get that investment back, which is part of it. In the final chapters of the Hundreds book, Bobby Hundreds talks about Supreme, and he mentions it, and he talks about it in the context of hypebeast and reselling. And he talks about how the monetary value and hype has become the face of Supreme, and that's what everyone knows it for. And I'm pretty sure most of you also just know it for that hype and that money. And he wanted to say, as a contrast, that's what he never wanted the Hundreds to be. He wanted it to be a brand that people buy and they wear the garments until they're busted and beaten and there's a hole in them or whatever. He didn't like how Supreme's customers, the people who are buying the clothes, aren't wearing the clothes and they're just waiting to flip them as soon as they get them in the mail. With this buyout, maybe that's what Supreme's trying to do. Maybe they're trying to put enough product out so that everyone who wants it gets it, kind of lose that hype beast and reseller angle that so many people know the brand for and that so many people like live off the brand for that resale, for that hype, and get back to that core 90s kid who just came to the shop because they loved the space and they just needed something to wear and they just loved the garms and they would wear the shit out of it, buy into the brand for the pieces and for that lifestyle. And with that reseller and hype beast tick, the Supreme community is filled with that, right? And it's not that great for, like, if you ever looked into the comment section of any Supreme post or even sometimes on the Supreme Reddit, it's just a bunch of people talking about how hype it is, how much it'll resell for, stuff like that. But occasionally you'll find a post about a guy who got a really low-key, one of those pieces I was talking about before, that low-key piece that's at the bottom of the drop list. And then he's wearing it in a really, really beautiful outfit. And then you got people talking about how they're excited for that piece to come in their size and color, or how they have thought this piece was underrated and that so they're surprised that no one's rocking it because it's so beautiful. And I think that little glimmer of like the actual sense of community that's occasionally there on the Supreme Reddit, I think that's what this buyout is going to hopefully bring the brand to. And it might lose people on the way, and that's fine. I think they're okay with that if they kind of keep some of that scarcity, but they get back to that core community that helped bring the company to where it is today, especially in that early state where in the 90s with that skate rack community. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for that community aspect to grow a little bit more, just as Bobby 100 said, is where the customers are more excited to wear the pieces than to sell the pieces. And in an interview, just to close it out, an interview with GQ, Supreme leader James Jebbia talked about how we're going to make the best product, or here, I got the quote. We're going to make the product as good as we can, and we're going to put it out as reasonably priced as we can. So from that, I think he always wanted to make stuff for those kids that I keep talking about. The Kids from Kids, that movie by Larry Clark, which is a very, very interesting movie. Kind of fucked. Not kind of fucked. It is quite fucked. Beware of watching it. But if you can kind of stomach it, it's a great watch. But yeah, he wanted to make the stuff for those kids. And although some of the pieces today are definitely not at those prices for the kids today, those prices, like those Vans and jackets and those like Stone Island collab that's coming out, that quality and those prices, that's definitely probably for the kids that have grown up, those 90s kids that are grown up now and they can afford that piece, stuff like that. That's partially who the brand is for now. And I think they still do have that skate rat. I mean, considering how much their tees cost, if you're from the States, only 34 USD or 36 USD, it's pretty affordable compared to other stuff. And I guess it gets thrown off by the resale market. So there's that. Maybe in a couple of years from now, I'll be rocking a Supreme button up instead of a Supreme box logo. And I think that's where I'm going to close it off. So thank you for listening to my Supreme is Not Dead explanation. I hope I got to enlighten you about the brand. I hope you see it for more than a hype beast or reseller tech. If you check the latest drop, check the latest Supreme preview, find an item there that's kind of low key that you really love head over heels and send it my way. We could talk about that piece. And yeah, thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow on the socials, Instagram only. Follow and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.